Good evening and welcome again to the Canadian Orthodox Monastery of All Saints of North America. We've been off the air for a while because I've been away on some lecture tours and visits. We were in Damascus, Syria for a conference which was held at the Islamic Institute of Damascus. I was there representing the Orthodox Peace Fellowship, primarily interested from our point of view in the coming crisis about water, and since there'll be water shortages, there will also be shortages of food. So this was the primary interest of the Orthodox Peace Fellowship, and of course the catastrophe that happened in Gaza was of great interest to us. After that, I was in Romania for a series of 4 other conferences, and so we'll try to resume our broadcasts. This evening, though, I'm going to first of all address some questions. If you will recall, those of you who have been following these broadcasts, we talked a little bit about superstitions in the church, and I'd asked people to write in and ask about some of the superstitions they'd heard, and we get some rather strange ones. Someone asked, is it really forbidden for the priest to ever sit on part of his vestments if he sits down in the altar while he's vested? I think that may have come from a Greek viewer, because the Greek vestments are very thin and flexible, and very often the Greek priest will pick up the phalonion and place it over their shoulders if they sit down in the altar. You can't always do that with Russian vestments, and the priest, the bishop, really can't do that with his sakos. So it's probably to keep from wrinkling the vestments, not because there's some great sin in if you happen to sit on part of the vestments. It's kind of a superstition that one absolutely must lift the vestments and not sit on any part of them, because that's obviously not really possible in every case. It's just a custom, and it developed into some kind of a fetish, I'm sure, that became a superstition. Somebody else asked me if I touch a cat on Sunday morning, am I forbidden to take communion? That's an interesting one. Well, the cat can't take communion on Sunday morning if it's been touched by a human, anyway. I have heard that superstition before. I should think you'd wash your hands after you touch the cat, just for general hygiene. Anyway, but there is no impediment to taking communion if you've touched an animal on Sunday morning. This again is a kind of a local fetish of some kind that developed into a superstition that became some kind of another legalism, the kind that kind of sometimes haunts the Orthodox Church and haunts the faithful. So those are a couple of the direct superstitions that we were asked about. I think we responded to the one about in Moldova, where you have to blow a post horn or trumpet-like device in front of a coffin as it's on its way to the cemetery, so the demons don't leap into the coffin and turn the body into a vampire or some such thing. That is almost prehistoric. It has nothing to do with anything Christian. And now, of course, it's resolved itself into simply a local custom of some kind. When I was in Moldova, the district of Romania, Moldavia, not the Republic, in Moldavia, I asked some people who were in a funeral procession after the burial had taken place, and actually tried blowing this trumpet myself. And they weren't too sure why they did it anymore. The purpose had been fairly well forgotten. So it just became like a local custom. I had asked a little further and found out that once upon a time people believed, and some still believed, that you had to blow the trumpet to scare the demons away so they didn't go into the coffin and take possession of the body. Presumably if they did, then the deceased person would become a vampire or something. So there are a host of superstitions of that type. And we talked about the letter that fell from heaven, or at least I wrote something about it on my blog site. So I'd be interested in hearing any more of these kind of superstitions that you wanted to ask about. I know in Russia, at least before the revolution, a priest went to visit somebody who was sick. Sometimes he would put both feet together and hop over the threshold into the house because he was aware that the people were watching, and if he put his left foot in first, it meant the sick person was going to die. And if he put his right foot in first, it meant the sick person was going to recover. Now the priest realized that if they accidentally put their left foot over the threshold first, people would focus on the person dying and convince the person that he was dying, and the person might die just because he was convinced he was going to die, whereas he wouldn't have otherwise. There is a very powerful psychosomatic situation when people actually believe these things. It's the same with curses. A curse can only work if you believe in curses and that you've been cursed. Now this delusion is so powerful that people actually have died from being told that a powerful witch or wizard or medicine man or something, particularly in voodoo practice, has put a death curse on them. They actually can grow sick and die, and it's really a death dying from fear, because they're convinced they're going to die and nothing can stop it, so they, in fact, their heart shuts down and they die. We have some examples of this in medical records, where a doctor has found out that a sick person, with no actual source of the sickness that can be discerned, eventually they find out that a death curse has been placed on the person, and the person believes it. And there was either a New Scientist or the Scientific American, I forget which one, the last issue of it. There was a discussion about this and a particular case history that was interesting. Curses do not work and have no validity. If you strongly believe in curses, though, and believe you've been cursed, then emotionally and psychologically, you can do yourself a lot of harm. And when somebody is absolutely convinced they've been cursed and they believe it, and they come and ask me about it, how to get rid of the curse, I tell them that the only way to overcome a curse is to forgive from your heart the person who cursed you. The very moment you forgive that person from your heart, the curse is broken and it's completely powerless. That's actually true, because again, the curse works psychosomatically, and forgiving a person from the heart as a way of totally breaking a curse is the only practically Christian way I know to help a person who really deeply believes in this and is affected by it to get through it and to break the curse. But the curses, of course, are not real. They have no real effect. There's no such thing as magic. Everything that operates by means of magic, put it out of our minds, because it doesn't work, it isn't there, there's nothing to it. Another superstition that caused a great deal of difficulty, to the degree that one bishop in Russia was actually deposed over it, was the barcode superstition. The idea that barcodes were the mark of the beast, and if you used barcodes or in any way purchased merchandise that had barcodes or had a barcode in your passport or your driving license, it was the mark of the beast and you had accepted Antichrist and you were going to go to hell. Of course, barcodes are somewhat old-fashioned now, being replaced by something that's genuinely sinister. That is the microchip that has a huge amount of information on you and can actually be implanted in the body. So we see that the barcode thing was really a superstition, and it desensitized people.